The autumn rain hammered down on Mulberry Street like a judgment from above. Neon signs from the Italian restaurants bled red and gold across the slick pavement, their colors distorted in the puddles that gathered along the curb. It was 8:47 p.m. in Little Italy, Manhattan, and the streets smelled of garlic, wet asphalt, and something darker, the metallic tang of impending violence. Vincent the Wolf Castellano stepped out of Luca's ristorante, his 8-year-old son Marco clutching his hand. The boy wore a navy peacoat that was too expensive for this neighborhood, his dark hair slicked back just like his father's. Vincent's 3 bodyguards formed a tight triangle around them, hands resting inside their jackets where their weapons waited. "Papa, can we get gelato?" Marco asked, his voice bright and innocent in a world that had forgotten what innocence meant. Vincent looked down at his son, the only thing in his empire that still felt pure. "Not tonight, Filio. It's late." That's when Vincent saw her, a small figure huddled against the brick wall of the alley adjacent to the restaurant. A homeless girl, no more than 9 or 10 years old, wrapped in a filthy, oversized coat that had once been pink. Her face was smudged with dirt, her blonde hair matted and tangled. But her eyes, those gray eyes, watched Vincent with an intensity that made something cold crawl up his spine. She wasn't begging. She wasn't asking for money. She was just ... watching. Bars the car. One of his men, Salvatore, gestured to the black Mercedes idling at the curb, exhaust puffing into the cold October air. Vincent nodded, tightening his grip on Marco's hand. But as they stepped toward the vehicle, the girl stood up, slowly, deliberately. And that's when the world exploded. The first gunshots came from the rooftop across the street, sharp cracks that shattered the restaurant windows. People screamed. His bodyguards drew their weapons, returning fire blindly into the darkness. More shots erupted from a van that screeched around the corner, its side door sliding open to reveal 2 masked shooters with automatic rifles. "Get down," Salvatore roared, throwing himself in front of Vincent. But Marco was frozen, paralyzed with terror in the middle of the sidewalk. Vincent lunged for his son, but the distance felt infinite. The bullets were already singing through the air, a chorus of death aimed at the most precious thing in his life. Then she moved. The homeless girl burst from the alley like a feral animal, her small body colliding with Marco and driving him to the wet pavement. Vincent watched in surreal horror as the girl wrapped herself around his son like a human shield. The bullets meant for Marco found her instead. Crack, 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 crack. 7 times her small body jerked with impact. 7 times Vincent heard a sound that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The wet thud of lead tearing through flesh. The shooter's van peeled away, tires screaming. The rooftop sniper vanished. The whole attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but Vincent felt like he'd aged 30 years. "Marco?" Vincent dropped to his knees beside the 2 children. His son was crying, unharmed, pinned beneath the girl's body. But the girl, Vincent carefully turned her over. Her coat was soaked with blood, spreading like dark roses across the fabric. 7 entry wounds: shoulder, chest, side, arm, stomach, leg, back. She should have been dead already. But her eyes opened. Those gray eyes found his face. "Safe," she whispered, blood bubbling at the corner of her mouth. "He's out, safe. Chi say," Vincent demanded, his voice breaking. "Who are you? Why did you?" But she was fading, her eyelids fluttering. "Salvatore." Vincent roared at his lieutenant. "Get every doctor in this city. I don't care what IT costs." He scooped the girl into his arms, careful of her wounds. She weighed nothing, a bundle of bones and tattered clothes, an impossible courage. Marco clung to his father's coat, sobbing. "Papa, is she gonna die? Papa, she saved me. ... Vincent looked down at the dying child in his arms, then at his own son, alive because a homeless stranger had thrown herself into bullets meant for him. "Not if I can help it," Vincent growled. "Get the car. Now." The Mercedes tore through the streets of Manhattan, running every red light. Vincent sat in the back, the girl's head cradled in his lap, pressing his own jacket against the worst of the wounds. Marco sat beside him, holding the girl's small, dirty hand. "Stay with me," Vincent commanded, his voice tight. "You hear me, Piccola? Stay with me." Her eyes opened again, unfocused. "I remember you what? Your face double quotes, another cough, more blood. I never forgot Vincent stared at her, his mind racing. He'd never seen this child before in his life. How could she remember him? Salvatore was on the phone in the front seat, barking orders. "I don't care if you're in surgery. The wolf wants you at St. Vincent's in 10 minutes, or you're finished in this city. Vincent looked out the window at the streaming lights of the city he'd controlled for 15 years. A city built on violence, on power, on fear. And now a child, a homeless child he'd never met, was dying in his arms because she chose to save his son. "Why?" he whispered, looking down at her pale face. "Why did you do this?" But she'd slipped into unconsciousness. The Mercedes screeched to a halt at St. Vincent's hospital emergency entrance. Vincent kicked the door open and carried the girl inside, his expensive suit soaked with her blood. "I need doctors, now." The emergency room erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses rushed forward with a gurney. A young resident tried to take the girl from Vincent's arms, but the Doan held her tighter. Mr. Castellano, a tired-looking doctor, approached carefully. "Sir, we need to—" "You will save her life," Vincent interrupted, his voice deadly calm. "I don't care what it takes. I don't care what it costs. You will save this child, or I will burn this hospital to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. Do you understand me?" The doctor's face went pale, but he nodded. "We'll do everything we can. Not good enough. You'll do everything impossible too." Vincent, finally, reluctantly, placed the girl on the gurney. The medical team immediately began cutting away her clothes, starting IVs, shouting medical terms he didn't understand. 7 GWs, gunshot wounds, one nurse called out. "BP is 60/40 and dropping. Type and cross-match for transfusion. Get her to O or 2. Pupils are reactive, but she's lost a lot of blood." They wheeled her away through double doors that slammed shut behind them, leaving Vincent standing in the middle of the his hands covered in a child's blood. Marco wrapped his arms around his father's waist. "She's gonna be okay, right, Papa?" Vincent looked down at his son, his heir, his legacy, his heart walking around outside his body. Alive because of a girl whose name he didn't even know. "Go call your mother," Vincent said quietly. "Tell her you're safe. Tell her I'll explain everything." As Marco moved towards Salvatore, Vincent stared at the blood on his hands. In his world, blood on your hands was a badge of honor, a sign of power. But this blood felt different. It felt like a debt. "Boss," Salvatore approached carefully. The hit was organized, professional. Someone paid good money to take out Marco. "I know," Vincent said coldly. "Find out who. And Sal, when we find them, I want them alive. I want to ask them questions." "Understood, Voz. And Sal? Find out who that girl is, everything about her, where she came from, why she was on that street tonight, why she said she remembered me. Salvatore nodded and walked away, already making calls. Vincent sank into one of the plastic chairs in the waiting room, suddenly feeling every one of his 43 years. Around him, other people with their own emergencies gave him a wide berth. They could smell the violence on him, the power, the danger. But for the first time in his life, Vincent Castellano felt powerless. He thought about what the girl had whispered. "I remember you, your face, ... I never forgot ... Who was she? And why, in God's name, did she throw herself in front of bullets for a stranger?" The hospital clock ticked past midnight, then 1 a.m., then 2 a.m. Vincent didn't move, didn't eat, didn't drink. He just waited, his mind replaying those 30 seconds over and over. The girl's gray eyes watching him. The way she moved, not frantically, not panicked, but with purpose. Like she'd been waiting for that exact moment. Like she'd been waiting for him. At 4:37 a.m., a surgeon emerged through the double doors, still in his blood-stained scrubs. Vincent shot to his feet. "Mr. Castellano," the surgeon said, exhaustion evident in his voice. "She's alive." Vincent felt something in his chest loosen, a tension he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "But," Vincent asked, because there was always a but. "But the next 48 hours are critical." She coded twice on the table. The bullets did catastrophic damage: collapsed lung, shattered ribs, perforated intestine, liver laceration. "We removed 6 bullets. 1 is lodged too close to her spine to safely extract. She's lost over 60% of her blood volume. She's in critical condition, Mr. Castellano. Even if she survives, there may be permanent damage. Can I see her?" The surgeon hesitated. "She's unconscious, heavily sedated. She won't even know you're there. I need to see her." Something in Vincent's tone made the surgeon nod. 5 minutes. ICU, room 7. The ICU was dimly lit, machines beeping a steady rhythm of life. Room 7 was at the end of the hallway. Vincent pushed the door open quietly. The girl looked even smaller in the hospital bed, swallowed by white sheets and surrounded by tubes and wires. A ventilator breathed for her. Monitors tracked her fragile heartbeat. Bandages covered most of her small body. She was just a child. 9, maybe 10 years old, living on the streets in the middle of winter, alone, scared, hungry, and she'd given up her life to save his son. Vincent sat in the chair beside her bed. In the harsh fluorescent light, he could see her face clearly for the first time. Angular features, a small scar above her left eyebrow, blonde hair that had been hastily washed by the nurses. "Who are you, Piccola?" Vincent whispered. "And what do you remember about me?" But the machines just beeped, their mechanical response, keeping watch over a mystery wrapped in bandages. Vincent leaned back in the chair, his mind working through scenarios and possibilities. In his world, nothing happened by accident. People didn't sacrifice themselves for strangers without reason. She knew him. She'd been waiting on that street. She'd watched him with recognition in her eyes. This wasn't coincidence. This was something else. His phone buzzed. A text from Salvatore. "Found surveillance footage from the restaurant. Boss, you need to see this. The girl was watching you for at least 2 hours before the hit." She knew something was coming. Vincent stared at the message, then at the unconscious child fighting for her life in front of him. "What do you know, little one?" he murmured. "And why did you risk everything to save a stranger?" But the only answer was the steady beep of the heart monitor, a fragile reminder that she was still here, still fighting, still alive. Vincent Castellano had been a man of violence for most of his adult life. He'd ordered deaths, orchestrated wars, built an empire on fear and blood. He'd never felt guilty, never felt regret, Until tonight. Tonight, a homeless child had shown him what courage really looked like. What sacrifice really meant. And Vincent realized, sitting in that sterile hospital room, that he owed this girl a debt he could never repay. But he could damn well try. The morning sun cast long shadows through the ICU window, but Vincent hadn't noticed. He'd been sitting in that chair for 6 hours straight, watching the girl's chest rise and fall with mechanical precision, the ventilator breathing life into her broken body. His phone had been buzzing non-stop. His consigliere, Antonio, demanding updates. His wife, Elena, frantic about Marco. His captains wanting to know who ordered the hit and when they could retaliate. Vincent ignored them all. At 7:15 a.m., a nurse came in to check the girl's vitals. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She looked surprised to see Vincent still there. "Mr. Castellano," she said carefully, "you should go home, get some rest. We'll call you if anything changes." "I stay," Vincent said flatly. The nurse didn't argue. She adjusted one of the 4 drips and made a note on her chart. "She's a fighter, this one. Her vitals are stabilizing. Dr. Morrison says if she makes it through today, her chances improve significantly." "If she makes it?" The nurse's expression softened. "Sir, with respect, she took 7 bullets. The fact that she's alive at all is a miracle. But her body is in shock. The next few hours will tell us everything." After the nurse left, Vincent stood and walked to the window. Outside, New York was waking up. Taxis honking, people rushing to work, steam rising from subway grates. A normal Tuesday morning in a city that never stopped moving. But nothing felt normal anymore. His phone rang. "Salvatore," Vincent answered. "Talk." "Boss, we got a problem." Salvatore's voice was tense. "I pulled the surveillance footage like I said. The girl. She wasn't just watching you for 2 hours. She's been watching you for weeks." Vincent's hand tightened on the phone. "What?" "I had my guys check cameras all over Little Italy. She's been following you, boss. At least a dozen times over the past month. Always keeping her distance. Always just ... watching. A child was stalking me. Looks that way. And boss, there's something else. I showed her picture to some of the old-timers in the neighborhood. Mickey the butcher. He recognized her. Said she used to panhandle outside his shop about 3-4 years ago. Then one day, she just vanished. He thought maybe she got picked up by child services or something. 4 years ago," Vincent repeated slowly. His mind was racing, calculating. She would have been, what, 5 or 6 years old? About that. "Boss, what happened 4 years ago that would make a 6-year-old homeless kid remember your face?" Vincent closed his eyes. 4 years ago. 2019. October. The Bronx Territory War. The expansion into the drug trade that the Russian mob didn't appreciate. His eyes snapped open. The warehouse fire. "Madonna Santa," Vincent breathed. "Sal, I need you to pull every file we have on the Bronx operations from October 2019. Everything. Every hit, every burned building. Boss, what are you thinking? Just do it. And Sal, get me Tony Marchetti. Now." "Marchetti?" "Boss. He's been retired for 3 years. I don't care if he's been dead for 3 years. Find him and bring him to me." Vincent hung up and turned back to the girl. She looked so small, so fragile. But there was something about her face, something nagging at the edges of his memory. "I remember you. Your face, ... I never forgot ... What did I do to you?" Vincent whispered. "What did my people do?" By noon, the girl's condition had improved enough that the doctors decided to try taking her off the ventilator. Vincent stood in the hallway, outside her room, watching through the glass window as the medical team worked. Dr. Morrison, the lead surgeon, stood beside him. "If she can breathe on her own, it's a very good sign. But Mr. Castellano, I need to prepare you. Even if she wakes up, she may not be the same. Trauma like this, it changes people, especially children." "She was living on the streets," Vincent said quietly. "She was already changed. The ventilator tube was removed. For a horrible moment, nothing happened. Then the girl's chest hitched, stuttered, and she drew in a ragged breath on her own. The medical team exhaled collectively. One of the nurses smiled. "She's doing it," Dr. Morrison said with genuine surprise. "She's breathing on her own." Vincent felt something in his chest. Relief, yes, but also something deeper. Something like hope, which was an emotion he'd forgotten existed. When will she wake up? Could be hours, could be days. We've reduced her sedation, but her body needs time to heal. The brain protects itself after trauma like this. It'll wake up when it's ready. Vincent nodded. "I want round-the-clock security on this room. 2 men at all times. Nobody gets in without my approval. Nobody. Mr. Castellano, this is a hospital." Dr. Vincent turned to face him, and his voice dropped to that dangerous whisper that made men twice his size step back. "Someone tried to kill my son last night. This girl saved his life. Until I know who gave that order and why, she's in danger. So you'll have my security, or you'll have chaos. Your choice." Dr. Morrison swallowed hard. "I'll inform the administration." "You do that." At 2 p.m., Salvatore arrived with an old man in tow. Tony Marchetti had been one of Vincent's top enforcers back in the day, a soldier who'd done her dirty work without asking questions. He'd retired to Florida 3 years ago with a pension and a promise that his past would stay buried. Now he stood in the hospital corridor, looking nervous and old, a far cry from the enforcer who once broke kneecaps for a living. "Tony," Vincent greeted him with a handshake that was just a bit too firm. "Thank you for coming. Mr. Castellano." Tony's voice was gravelly from decades of cigarettes. "Sal said it was urgent. What's this about?" Vincent led him to a private consultation room down the hall and closed the door. Salvatore stood guard outside. "October 2019, Vincent said without preamble. "The Bronx. We were expanding territory, pushing out the Russians. There was a warehouse fire." Tony's weathered face went carefully blank. "So we did a lot of things in the Bronx, Morrison Street, abandoned textile warehouse. You torched it because intelligence said the Russians were using it as a distribution point." Tony's jaw tightened. "I remember. What else do you remember?" "Boss, that was 4 years ago. What else do you remember?" Vincent's voice cracked like a whip. Tony flinched. For a moment, he looked like he might lie. Then his shoulders sagged. There were people inside," Tony said quietly. "We didn't know. Our intel said the building was empty, except for the Russian supply cache. But when the fire started, we heard screaming, a woman and a kid." Vincent's blood ran cold. "You heard them." "We tried to get 'em out, boss. I swear to God we tried. But the fire spread too fast. The accelerant we used, it just..." Tony's hands trembled. "We got the woman out. She was burned bad, unconscious. We left her at a hospital, anonymous drop. But the kid, ... What about the kid?" "She ran. Maybe 5, 6 years old. Blonde hair. She was screaming. Her clothes were on fire. We tried to grab her, but she was terrified. She ran into the streets and just ... disappeared. We looked for her for hours, boss. I swear we looked, but she was gone." Vincent stared at Tony, his mind putting together a puzzle he wished he'd never started. "The woman," Vincent said slowly. "Did she survive?" Tony shook his head. "Died 3 days later. Burns were too severe. I checked the obituaries. Name was Sarah Mitchell. No next of kin listed, No father on record, and the daughter never found. Assumed she went into the foster system or died somewhere on the streets. Tony met Vincent's eyes. Boss, that fire haunted me. It's why I retired. I couldn't do it anymore after that night. Knowing we'd burned a mother and child alive because our intelligence was wronged. Evie Vincent walked to the window. His hands clenched behind his back. The child didn't die, Tony. She survived. And last night, she took 7 bullets meant for my son. The silence in the room was deafening. Oh my God, Tony whispered. The homeless girl on the news. That's her. She remembered my face. She said she'd never forgot, but how would she know you? You weren't even there that night. Tony stopped, his eyes widening. The photograph. What photograph? After the fire, when we were making sure the Russians knew it was us who hit them, we left a calling card. Your photograph. It was standard intimidation back then. Let them know who they were dealing with. We pinned it to the warehouse gate. Vincent closed his eyes. He could see it now. A terrified 6-year-old girl. Her mother dying, her home burning, stumbling out of that inferno and seeing his face pinned to the gate. The face of the man responsible for destroying her entire world. She's been carrying that for 4 years, Vincent said quietly. 4 years on the streets, alone, remembering the face of the man who killed her mother. Boss, we didn't know. It doesn't matter. Vincent spun around, his voice harsh. Knowing or not knowing doesn't change what we did. We burned her home. We killed her mother. We destroyed her life. So why did she save Marco? Tony asked, genuinely confused. If she knew who you were, if she blamed you, why didn't she let him die? Why take those bullets? That was the question, wasn't it? The question that had been eating at Vincent since the moment the girl whispered safe with blood on her lips. I don't know, Vincent admitted. But I'm going to find out. At 6 p.m., Vincent sat alone with the girl again. The evening shift nurse had changed her bandages and reported that her vitals continued to improve. Against all odds, the little fighter was winning. Marco had called twice, asking when he could visit. Elena had called 5 times, demanding Vincent come home. His captains were growing restless, wanting blood for the assassination attempt. But Vincent couldn't leave. Not yet. He studied the girl's face in the dimming light. Now that he knew who she was, he could see traces of the woman Tony had described pulling from the fire. The sharp cheekbones, the small nose, the determined set of her jaw, even in unconsciousness. Sarah Mitchell, Vincent said softly, testing the name. Was that your mother? The machines beeped their steady rhythm. I killed her. My orders, my war, my responsibility. And you survived. Alone on these streets for 4 years. No family, no home, nothing. Vincent leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. You should hate me. You should have let those bullets hit my son. You should have danced on his grave and laughed in my face. That would have been justice. The girl's eyelids flickered, but didn't open. But you didn't, Vincent continued, his voice rough. You threw yourself in front of him. You took 7 bullets. You whispered safe like his life mattered more than your own. Why? Why would you do that? Outside the room, he could hear the hospital sounds, announcements over the PA system, carts rolling down hallways, distant conversations. The sounds of life continuing while he sat here with a dying child who had given him a gift he didn't deserve. I can't bring your mother back, Vincent said. I can't give you those 4 years. I can't undo what my people did. But I can, I can try to make it right. Somehow. He reached out and carefully took her small hand in his. It was cold, the fingers thin and delicate. The hand of a child who'd known too much pain. You saved my son's life, Vincent whispered. And I swear to you, Piccola, I swear on everything I am, I will spend the rest of my life protecting yours. You will never be alone again. You will never be hungry again. You will never be afraid again. The machines beeped, and then so softly he almost missed it, her fingers twitched in his hand. Vincent froze, his heart pounding. Nurse! Nurse! The evening nurse rushed in, alarm on her face. Mr. Castellano, what? Her hand. She moved her hand. The nurse quickly checked the monitors, then gently lifted one of the girl's eyelids, shining a penlight. Her responses are improving. She might be starting to wake up. How long? Could be hours. Could be tomorrow. But this is good, Mr. Castellano. This is very good. After the nurse left, Vincent sat back down, still holding the girl's hand. That's right, he said softly. Come back, Biola. Come back and tell me why. Tell me your story. Tell me how a child learns to be that brave at 11 p.m. Salvatore brought food Vincent didn't eat and news Vincent didn't want to hear. Boss, we identified the shooters from last night. Contract killers out of Philadelphia. Word on the street is the Colombo family paid for the hit. Vincent's jaw tightened. The Colombos. His rivals for the past decade, always looking for an opening, always pushing boundaries. You're sure? 2 independent sources confirmed it. They wanted to take out Marco, destabilize your operation, move in on your territories while you were dealing with grief. Set up a meeting, Vincent said coldly. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Tell Colombo I want to talk. Boss, you sure that's wise? After they just tried to kill your son, do I look like I'm asking for advice, Sal? Salvatore backed down immediately. No, boss, I'll set it up. After Salvatore left, Vincent looked down at the girl. In the soft light of the monitors, she looked almost peaceful. You stopped a war, Vincent told her. By saving Marco, you prevented everything I would have done in revenge. All the bodies, all the blood, all the chaos. You stopped it before it started. He paused, a realization dawning. Did you know? He whispered. When you watched me for weeks, did you see the violence coming? Did you know they were planning something? But there was no answer. Just the steady beep of the heart monitor and the soft hiss of oxygen. Vincent settled back in his chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. But he didn't close his eyes. He kept watching, kept waiting, because somewhere in this broken child's story was a truth he needed to understand. A truth about courage, about sacrifice, about forgiveness he didn't deserve. And when she woke up, if she woke up, he would finally hear it. At 3:47 a.m., Vincent jolted awake to the sound of alarms. The girl's monitors were going crazy, numbers spiking and falling. Her body was seizing, thrashing against the restraints of the bed. "Help!" Vincent shouted, slamming his hand on the call button. "Someone help her." Medical staff flooded the room. Dr. Morrison pushed past Vincent, shouting orders. "She's crashing! Get me the crash cart. BP is dropping. Push epi, now." Vincent was shoved into the hallway by a nurse. Through the window, he watched them work on her, watched them shock her small body with defibrillator paddles, watched the flat line on the monitor. "No," Vincent whispered. "No, no, no. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare beep." A single tone, then another, then the steady rhythm returning. The medical team stepped back, breathing hard. Dr. Morrison looked exhausted. "She's stable," he called out. "Vitals are returning to normal. It was a complication from the liver injury, but we've got it controlled." Vincent sagged against the wall, his legs suddenly weak. Salvatore caught him. "Boss, you okay?" "She almost died," Vincent said, his voice hollow. "Right here. Right in front of me. But she didn't, boss. She's still fighting." Vincent looked at his lieutenant. "You know what she is, Sal? She's a miracle. A goddamn miracle that I don't deserve. For the first time in his career, Salvatore saw something in Vincent. Castellano's eyes he'd never seen before. Tears. The morning of the third day arrived with a grey October sky that matched Vincent's exhausted state of mind. He'd barely left the hospital, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs, eating vending machine food, and ignoring the growing chaos in his organization. At 9:23 a.m., Dr. Morrison entered the ICU room with cautious optimism on his face. "Mr. Castellano, her brain activity is increasing. All signs point to her regaining consciousness within the next few hours. Her body is healing faster than we anticipated. She's extraordinary." Vincent stood from his chair, his back aching from 3 nights of terrible sleep. "When she wakes up, I want to be here." "Of course. But sir, I need to prepare you. She may not remember the shooting clearly. Trauma can affect memory, and emotionally, ... A child who's been through what she has, ... Morrison paused. "She needs psychiatric care, professional support. This isn't something money alone can fix." "I know," Vincent said quietly, "but money can help. And I have plenty of that." After the doctor left, Vincent walked to the window and pulled out his phone. He had 17 missed calls from Antonio, his consigliere, and 32 text messages from various captains. The organization was getting restless. He dialed Antonio. Vinconio's voice was sharp. "Where the hell have you been? The Colombos are circling like sharks. The families are asking questions, and you're playing nursemaid to a street kid. Watch your tone, Antonio." "Boss, with respect, Marco is safe. The girl did her part. Now we need to respond. We need to show strength, not weakness. Every hour you spend in that hospital is an hour. Enemies think you've gone soft." Vincent's jaw tightened. "The meeting with Colombo, is it set?" "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The old warehouse on the pier. Neutral ground, as requested. But Vincenzo, you can't go soft on this. They tried to kill your heir. They need to pay." "They will," Vincent said coldly, "just not the way they expect. And Antonio? That street kid has a name. Find out what it is." He hung up before Antonio could respond. At 11:47 a.m., Vincent was reviewing security footage on his laptop when he heard a sound that made him freeze. A soft, rasping voice from the bed. "Water, ... double quotes." Vincent's head snapped up. The girl's eyes were open, those grey eyes that had haunted him for 3 days. She was awake. "Nurse," Vincent called, but his voice came out rough. He moved to the bedside. "Hey, Piacola. Hey, you're okay. You're safe." The girl's eyes found his face, and for a moment there was nothing. No recognition, no emotion. Just exhaustion and pain. Then her eyes widened. Fear flashed across her face. "You ... double quotes," she whispered. The nurses rushed in, immediately checking vitals and adjusting machines. Dr. Morrison appeared moments later, shining lights in her eyes, asking her questions. "Do you know where you are, sweetheart?" The girl's eyes never left Vincent's face. "Hospital ... That's right. You were hurt. Do you remember what happened?" A long pause. Then, barely audible, gunshots. "The boy. I had to save him." "You did save him," Dr. Morrison said gently. "You were very brave. Can you tell me your name?" Another pause. The girl's lips trembled. "Emma ... Emma Mitchell." Vincent felt his chest tighten. Emma. She had a name now. Not just the girl or Piergola. "Emma. Emma," Vincent said softly. "That's a beautiful name." Her grey eyes locked onto his, and he saw something in them that cut deeper than any knife. recognition mixed with something he couldn't quite identify. Not hate, not fear, something more complex. "I know you," Emma whispered. "I've always known you." Dr. Morrison glanced at Vincent with concern. "Emma, this is Mr. Castellano. He's been very worried about you." He killed my mother," Emma said flatly. The room went silent. The nurses froze. Dr. Morrison's face went pale. Vincent didn't flinch. He'd known this moment was coming. "Yes," he said simply. "I did." Dr. Morrison immediately stepped between them. "Mr. Castellano, perhaps you should know." Emma's voice was weak but firm. "Let him stay, Emma. You need rest. I need to talk to him." The outburst cost her. She started coughing, her small body racked with pain. The nurses immediately moved to help her, adjusting her oxygen. Vincent raised his hands. "Everyone out. Now, sir. We can't leave a patient out." Vincent's voice cracked like thunder. "Give us 5 minutes. I'm not going to hurt her. She's the one who saved my son." 5 minutes, doctor." Morrison looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Vincent's eyes made him nod. 5 minutes. Then we need to examine her properly. The medical staff filed out reluctantly, leaving Vincent alone with the girl who knew his darkest secret. For a long moment, neither spoke. Emma stared at him with those ancient eyes that had seen too much for a child her age. Vincent pulled the chair close to her bed and sat down, making himself smaller, less threatening. "Emma," he began. Why did you come?" she interrupted. "Why did you stay?" "Because you saved my son's life. So it's a debt. You're here because you owe me." Vincent paused. "At first, yes, but now it's more complicated than that." Emma's laugh was bitter and wrong coming from a child. "Complicated. That's a good word for it." She closed her eyes, pain crossing her face. October 14th, 2019. Morrison Street, warehouse fire. My mother was Sarah Mitchell. We were squatting in that building because we had nowhere else to go. "I know," Vincent said quietly. "My man Tony told me everything." "Did he tell you how she screamed when the flames reached her? Did he tell you how I held her hand while her skin melted? Did he tell you how she made me promise to run, to survive, to live?" Emma's eyes opened, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Did he tell you that I watched her die 3 days later in a hospital bed, just like this one?" Vincent felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "No, he didn't tell me that. I was 6 years old," Emma continued, her voice breaking. 6. And I stood outside that hospital room and watched me mother die because of your war. Your territory, your power. Emma, they pinned your picture to the gate, like a trophy, like a signature. I looked at that picture every day for 4 years. I memorized every line of your face. I promised my mother I would survive. And I promised myself I would make you see what you took from me." Vincent's hands clenched. "Is that why you saved Marco? To make me feel this? To make me understand?" Emma was quiet for a long moment, more tears sliding down her thin face. "No," she whispered finally. "I saved him because he's just a kid, like I was, and he didn't deserve to die for your sins. No child does." The weight of her words settled on Vincent like a physical thing. Here was a child who'd lost everything because of him, who'd lived on the streets for 4 years, who'd had every reason to let his son die, and she'd chosen mercy instead. "How long were you watching me?" Vincent asked. 3 months, Emma admitted. "I'd tracked your movements, learned your patterns. I knew something was coming. There were too many new faces on the streets, too many whispers about territory and revenge. I didn't know when or where, but I knew someone wanted to hurt you, and you could have walked away." "Yes, but you didn't." Emma closed her eyes again. "My mother. In her last moments she wasn't angry. She was just sad. She said, "Baby, don't let hate make you cold. Don't let this world steal your heart." I didn't understand it then. But living on the streets, watching people, I started to understand. She opened her eyes and looked directly at Vincent. "Hate is easy. Revenge is easy. But my mother taught me that just because the world is cruel doesn't mean we have to be. So when I saw those guns pointed at your son, I made a choice. Not for you, for him. And for her memory." Vincent sat back, stunned by the wisdom coming from this broken child. "You're 10 years old. I'll be 11 in December," Emma said. "If I survive that long, you'll survive," Vincent said firmly. "I'm making sure of that." "Why?" "So you can feel better about killing my mother." "No." Vincent leaned forward. "Because you gave me something I can never repay. You showed me that mercy exists even in this dark world. You showed me that a child who lost everything can still choose to save a life. You shamed me, Emma Mitchell. You shamed every dark thing I've ever done." Emma studied his face for a long time. "What happens now? Now, you heal. And when you're strong enough, you'll never go back to those streets. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you a home, an education, protection, everything you should have had. I don't want your guilt money," Emma said sharply. "It's not guilt money. It's a debt I'll never finish paying." Vincent's voice dropped. "And maybe it's a chance for both of us to be better than we were." Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your son, Marco, is he okay? He asks about you every day. He wants to meet you. He calls you his guardian angel." A ghost of a smile touched Emma's lips. "Angels are supposed to have wings, not bullet holes." Vincent surprised himself by laughing, a short, sharp sound that felt foreign after 3 days of dread. "You have a dark sense of humor for a kid. You learn that living on the streets," Emma said. Then her expression grew serious. "Mr. Castellano, I can't forgive what you did. Not yet. Maybe not ever. My mother is still dead. Those 4 years are still gone, I know. But I don't hate you. I'm too tired to hate. And maybe if something good can come from all this pain, maybe that's enough." Vincent reached out slowly, telegraphing his movements, and gently took her hand. "You're wise beyond your years, Emma Mitchell." "I didn't want to be," she whispered. "I just wanted to be a normal kid. Then that's what we'll work toward. You being a kid again, with a home and safety and a future." Emma squeezed his hand weakly. "I saved your son's life. But I think maybe you're going to save mine too." Before Vincent could respond, the door opened and Dr. Morrison entered with the nurses. "Mr. Castellano, we really need to examine Emma now." Vincent stood, but Emma didn't let go of his hand. "You'll come back?" she asked, and for the first time she sounded like the scared child she really was. "I promise," Vincent said. "I'm not going anywhere." As he walked out of the room, Vincent felt something shift inside him. A weight he'd carried for so long, he'd forgotten it was there, starting to lift. He'd done terrible things in his life. It hurt people. It caused pain. But maybe, just maybe, this broken child was offering him something he'd thought impossible: redemption. The next day, Vincent Castellano walked into the abandoned warehouse on Pier 47, with Salvatore and 2 bodyguards flanking him. The space was cavernous and cold, lit by weak sunlight filtering through broken windows. In the center of the warehouse stood Dominic Colombo, a man in his 50s with silver hair and cold eyes, accompanied by his own small army. Castellano, Colombo greeted him with false warmth. "I heard about the incident with your boy. Terrible thing, truly. I'm glad he's safe." Vincent walked forward until he was 10 feet from Colombo. The tension in the warehouse was thick enough to cut. You hired the Philadelphia contractors, Vincent said flatly. Don't insult me by denying it. Columbo's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went hard. That's a serious accusation, Vincent. It's a statement of fact. I have 2 independent sources. I have financial records. I have testimony from one of the shooters we caught. A lie, but Columbo didn't know that. You wanted my son dead, so you could move on my territories while I was distracted by grief. Columbo's men shifted, hands moving toward weapons. Salvatore's hand went to his jacket. Everyone calm down, Columbo said smoothly. Vincent, even if what you're saying were true, and I'm not admitting anything, what are you going to do about it? Start a war? You've been sitting in a hospital for 3 days playing nursemaid. Your organization thinks you've gone soft. Your captains are questioning your leadership. This is no time for you to start a war you can't win. Vincent stared at him for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the warehouse. He smiled. You're absolutely right, Dominic. I have been distracted. I have been sitting in a hospital. And you know what I learned there? Columbo's confident expression flickered. What? That violence isn't always the answer. That sometimes mercy is stronger than revenge. That a 10-year-old homeless child has more wisdom than men like us will ever have. What the hell are you talking about? That girl who saved my son. She had every reason to let him die. I killed her mother 4 years ago. Burned her home. Destroyed her life. She spent 4 years on the streets because of me. And when she had the chance for revenge, you know what she did? She took 7 bullets to save his life anyway. Vincent stepped closer. She taught me something, Dominic. She taught me that breaking the cycle of violence takes more courage than perpetuating it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to liquidate $5 million in assets. Cash, unmarked. And you're going to donate it to children's charities in this city. Homeless shelters, foster care programs, family services. Columbo stared at him like he'd lost his mind. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? $5 million. By the end of the month. In exchange, I won't start a war that will cost both of us everything. I won't retaliate for the hit on my son. I won't burn your empire to the ground. Instead, we'll call it even. And maybe, just maybe, some good will come from all this blood. And if I refuse, Vincent's smile vanished. Then I won't show you the mercy that child showed me. Then I become the man I was 3 days ago. And Dominic, you don't want to meet that man again. He's a monster. And monsters don't negotiate. The warehouse was silent. Columbo's men looked at their boss. Salvatore looked at Vincent like he'd never seen him before. Finally, Columbo nodded slowly. You've changed, Castellano. Yes, Vincent agreed. I have, and you're going to change too. Or you're going to die. Your choice. Columbo extended his hand. We have an agreement. Vincent shook it, the grip firm and cold. One more thing. If I ever hear of you targeting children, mine or anyone else's, the deal is off, and I'll come for you with everything I have. Are we clear? Crystal. As Vincent walked out of the warehouse, Salvatore caught up with him. Boss, what the hell was that? We could have taken them. We could have ended this. And then what, Sal? Start a war? Lose more men? Create more orphans? Vincent shook his head. That girl in the hospital showed me that there's another way. Maybe not for everything. Maybe not forever. But for this. Yeah, this was the right call. The families are going to think you've gone soft. Let them think what they want, Vincent said. I'm done proving myself to men who measure strength by body count. Emma Mitchell is 10 years old, and she's stronger than all of us combined. That's the kind of strength I want to build now. Salvatore was quiet for a moment. Then, boss, I think that kid didn't just save Marco's life. I think she might have saved yours too. Vincent looked back at the warehouse, then up at the grey October sky. Yes, Elle, I think you might be right. 3 weeks later, Emma sat in a wheelchair in the hospital's physical therapy room, frustration etched across her young face. Her body was healing, but the road was long. The bullet near her spine meant she'd need months of therapy to walk normally again. The other wounds had left scars that would never fully fade, but she was alive. Vincent visited every day, usually in the afternoons after handling his business in the mornings. Today, he brought Marco with him. The first time the two children would meet since that night. Marco was nervous, clutching a stuffed bear he'd insisted on bringing. At 8 years old, he understood that this girl had saved his life, but he didn't fully grasp the weight of what that meant. Emma saw them enter, and her expression shifted: surprise, uncertainty, and something softer. "Hi," Marco said shyly. "Are you Emma?" "Yeah," Emma replied, equally quiet. "Are you Marco?" The boy nodded and held out the bear. "I brought you this. His name is Bruno. He helps when I have nightmares." Emma took the bear carefully, her thin fingers running over its worn fur. "Thank you. That's really nice." Vincent watched the two children, his heart unexpectedly full. Marco sat down in the chair next to Emma's wheelchair, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Two kids from completely different worlds, connected by 30 seconds of violence. "Does it hurt?" Marco asked, gesturing to her bandages. "Sometimes," Emma admitted, "but I've felt worse." "Like what?" Emma paused, glancing at Vincent. He gave her a small nod. She could share as much or as little as she wanted. "Like being cold and hungry with nowhere to sleep," Emma said softly. "Like watching people walk past you like you're invisible. Like being so alone you forget what your own voice sounds like." Marco's eyes went wide. That's really sad." "Yeah, it was. My papa says you lived on the streets for a long time. For years." "For years?" Marco looked shocked. That's almost half my life." "It was all of mine that mattered," Emma said. Marco was quiet, processing this. Then he asked the question Vincent had been wondering about. "Why did you save me?" "Papa told me about your mum and the fire and everything. You could have let those bad men hurt me. Why didn't you?" Emma looked down at the stuffed bear in her lap. "Because you didn't do anything wrong. You're just a kid. And kids shouldn't pay for what their parents do. That's what my mum taught me before she died. That being hurt doesn't give you permission to hurt back. That you always have a choice. But you've got really hurt saving me." "Yeah, well." Emma managed a small smile. "Sometimes the right choice is the hard one." Marco thought about this, then suddenly leaned over and hugged her, carefully, mindful of her injuries. "Thank you for saving me. I'm going to remember you forever." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She hugged him back with one arm. "You're welcome, Marco." Vincent cleared his throat, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Marco, why don't you go find some juice from the vending machine? I need to talk to Emma for a minute." After Marco left, Vincent sat in the vacated chair. "You're good with him." "He's sweet," Emma said. "Not like I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more like you, I guess. Harder, colder. He has his mother's heart, thank God. He hasn't been shaped by this world yet." Vincent paused. "Emma, we need to talk about what happens when you leave the hospital." Emma's expression became guarded. "What about it?" "Dr. Morrison says you'll be discharged in about a week. You'll need physical therapy for several months, maybe longer. You'll need a place to stay, food, clothes, education." Vincent leaned forward. "I want you to come live with us. With me, Elena, and Marco. We have plenty of room." "We can." "No." Emma's voice was firm. Vincent blinked. No, I can't live with you. That's too much. I can't replace your family or pretend to be your daughter or something. I'm not ready for that. Emma, I'm not asking you to replace anyone. I'm offering you a home, and I appreciate it. Really. But I need my own space. I need to figure out who I am without my mother, without the streets, without all of this. Emma gestured around. I can't jump from the street into a mansion. That's not how it works. Vincent sat back, surprised, but also oddly proud of her independence. Okay, then what do you want? Emma had clearly been thinking about this. There's a home, St. Catherine's. It's a residential program for kids aging out of foster care. I looked it up on one of the nurses' tablets. They teach life skills, provide education, help kids transition to independence. It's supervised, but it's not a mansion. It's more like halfway between the street and normal life. You want to go to a group home? Vincent couldn't hide his skepticism. Emma, I can provide so much more than that. I know you can. But it's not about the money or the size of the house. It's about me learning to be a person again. Learning to trust people. Learning to be a kid. Emma's grey eyes met his. And maybe eventually I'll be ready for more. But right now, I need to do this my way. Vincent wanted to argue, wanted to insist that she deserved the best, that he could give her everything. But looking at her determined expression, he realized she was right. She'd survived 4 years on the streets by being strong and independent. She couldn't suddenly become someone else overnight. Okay, Vincent said finally. St. Catherine's, but I'm funding it. I'm making sure you have the best therapists, the best tutors, everything you need. I figured you'd say that, Emma said with a slight smile. And I visit, at least once a week, to check on you. Make sure you're okay. I can live with that. And if anything happens, anything at all, you call me, day or night. I don't care what it is. Deal. Vincent pulled out his phone and made a note. I'll talk to St. Catherine's today. Get everything arranged. Thank you, Emma said quietly, for understanding, for not forcing me into something I'm not ready for. You've been forced into too much already, Vincent said. From now on, you get to choose your own path. I'm just going to make sure the path is safe. Marco came back with 3 juice boxes. They had grape, and I wasn't sure if you liked grape, so I got apple and orange too. Emma laughed, a real laugh that made her sound like the child she should have been. I like all of them. Thank you, Marco. As the 3 of them sat together, talking about small things, school, books, favorite foods, Vincent felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope for power or money or respect. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he could do something truly good. That this broken child could heal. That his son could grow up seeing kindness instead of just violence. That the cycle could actually be broken. 1 week later, Emma Mitchell was discharged from St. Vincent's Hospital. Vincent had pulled strings, called in favors, made donations, ensured everything was perfect. St. Catherine's home had been renovated with a new wing specifically for kids with special medical needs. Emma would have her own room, access to the best physical therapists, tutors for the education she'd missed, and counselors to help with the trauma. Vincent carried her to his car. She insisted she could use the wheelchair herself, but he wanted to do this. At the car, Elena was waiting with Marco. Vincent's wife was a graceful woman with warm eyes, who had been skeptical about this whole arrangement until she met Emma. Then she'd cried and hugged the girl gently and said, "Thank you for saving my baby." Now, Elena handed Emma a shopping bag. "I didn't know what you'd need, so I got a bit of everything. Clothes, toiletries, books." Marco helped pick out the books. Emma looked in the bag, overwhelmed. This This is too much. It's not nearly enough, Elena said firmly. But it's a start. The drive to St. Catherine's took 20 minutes through Manhattan traffic. Emma sat in the back with Marco, who chatted about his school and his friends, and how he had told everyone about his guardian angel. St. Catherine's was a 3-story brownstone in a quiet neighborhood. It looked warm and welcoming, with flower boxes in the windows and a small garden out front. Not a mansion, but not institutional either. Somewhere in between. Sister Maria, the director, greeted them at the door, a woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and the no-nonsense air of someone who'd seen it all. "You must be Emma," she said warmly. "We've been preparing your room. Would you like to see it?" Emma nodded, and Vincent wheeled her inside. The home was clean and bright, with artwork on the walls, and the smell of something baking in the kitchen. Other residents, teenagers mostly, peeked out of doorways with curiosity. Emma's room was on the 2nd floor. It was modest but cozy, a single bed with a colorful quilt, a desk by the window, a small bookshelf, and a dresser. Someone had put fresh flowers on the desk. "It's perfect," Emma whispered. "There's a therapy room downstairs," Sister Maria explained. "Your physical therapist will come 3 times a week. We have tutors for academics, and Dr. Chun will be stopping by twice a week to check on your emotional health. We also have group activities, movie nights, cooking classes, game tournaments. You can participate as much or as little as you want." Emma looked around the room, and for the first time since Vincent had met her, she looked almost ... peaceful. "I'll let you get settled," Sister Maria said. "Emma, if you need anything, I'm right downstairs." After Sister Maria left, Vincent knelt beside Emma's wheelchair. "This is it. Your new start." "I'm scared," Emma admitted quietly. "That's normal. Starting over is scary. But Emma, you've already done the hardest part. You've survived. You've saved a life. You chose forgiveness over revenge. Everything else is going to be easier than that. What if I can't do it? What if I can't be normal?" Vincent took her small hand in his large one. "Normal is overrated. Just be you. That's more than enough." Marco hugged Emma carefully. "I'm going to visit all the time." Papa promised. "I'd like that," Emma said, hugging him back. Elena kissed Emma's forehead. "You're part of our family now, sweetheart. Whether you live here or with us, that doesn't change. You saved our son. We will never forget that." After Vincent's family left, Emma sat alone in her new room for a long time. She looked at the flowers on the desk, at the books on the shelf, at the bed that was hers and only hers. Then she noticed something on the pillow. An envelope with her name written in careful handwriting. Emma opened it. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The letter read, "Emma, this is your mother, on her 23rd birthday. I found it in the hospital records and tracked down the photographer. I thought you should have it. I can't give you back the years we took from you. I can't bring your mother back. I can't undo the fire, or the pain, or the fear. But I can give you this, proof that she existed, that she smiled, that she loved you. On the back of the photo, I've written every detail I could find about her. Where she grew up, her favorite music, the books she loved, the dreams she had. I hired investigators to find everyone who knew her. I wanted you to have her story. You said you can't forgive me yet. Maybe you never will. But I hope someday you can look at this picture and remember that your mother's love made you strong enough to survive, strong enough to save a life, strong enough to choose mercy. You honored her memory, Emma. Every day you live, every kind choice you make, every time you help someone, you honor her. I will spend the rest of my life trying to honor her too." Vince and Emma pulled out the photograph with shaking hands. Her mother stared back at her, young and beautiful, with blonde hair and gray eyes just like Emma's, laughing at whoever was taking the picture. She wore a sundress and stood in front of a carousel, happiness radiating from every pixel. Emma flipped the photo over and read the handwritten notes covering the back. Sarah Mitchell, born June 15, 1991, in Buffalo, NY. Loved jazz music, especially Billie Holiday. Favorite book, To Kill a Mockingbird. Wanted to be a teacher. Her laugh, according to those who knew her, could light up a room. She named you Emma after her grandmother. Her last words to the nurses were, "Tell my daughter I love her." Emma clutched the photograph to her chest and cried. Not the silent, survival tears she'd learnt on the streets. Real sobs that shook her small frame, releasing 4 years of grief she'd never allowed herself to feel. But these tears were different from the tears she'd cried before. These tears were cleansing, healing, tears that said goodbye to one chapter and hello to another. When Sister Maria checked on her an hour later, Emma was asleep in the bed, still clutching the photograph, with the stuffed bear Marco had given her tucked under her arm. 6 months later, Emma stood on her own 2 feet for the first time since the shooting. Her physical therapist, Marcus, stood nearby with his arms out in case she fell, but Emma was determined. "I can do this," she muttered to herself. She took 1 step, then another. Her legs wobbled, muscles still weak from months of recovery. But she didn't fall. "That's it, Emma," Marcus encouraged. 5 more steps to the chair. Emma gritted her teeth and pushed forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4, 5. She collapsed into the chair, breathing hard but grinning with triumph. "I did it, Marcus, I did it." "You sure did, kiddo. Told you those months of work would pay off." That evening, Vincent visited like he did every Wednesday. Emma met him in the common room, and his face split into a huge smile when he saw her standing, carefully, with a cane for support, but standing. "Emma, you're walking." "Sort of," Emma laughed. "More like awkward shuffling. But it's progress." They sat together on the couch, and Emma showed him her report card, straight A's with her tutor, plus glowing notes about her participation in group activities. "I'm proud of you," Vincent said, meaning every word. "Your mother would be proud too." Emma touched the locket around her neck, a gift from Vincent that contained the photograph of her mother. She wore it every day. "I think she would be," Emma agreed. "Mr. Castellano." "Vincent? I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I forgive you." The words came out soft but certain. "Not because what happened was okay. It wasn't. It will never be okay. But I forgive you because I'm tired of carrying hate. And because you've proven that people can change. That monsters can become less monstrous." Vincent felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Emma, I don't deserve, maybe not, but I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me, for my mother, for the person I want to become." Emma smiled. "Besides, Marco would be sad if I stayed mad at his dad forever. How is that little troublemaker? Still talking your ear off every time we visit. Always. He wants me to come to his birthday party next month. And will you?" Emma paused, then nodded. "Yeah, I think I'm ready for that. Sister Maria says I'm doing well enough that I can have overnight visits soon. Maybe I could stay with your family sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Emma Mitchell, our door is always open to you. Always." "Good. Because Marco promised to teach me how to make pasta. And apparently that's an all-day affair." They talked for another hour about small things. Emma's progress, Marco's school play, the new garden Sister Maria was planting, normal things, family things. As Vincent stood to leave, Emma hugged him, no longer the scared, defensive girl from 6 months ago, but someone stronger, someone healing. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. for keeping your promise, for letting me do this my way. Thank you, Vincent replied, for showing a old gangster that redemption is possible, that change is possible, that maybe the world isn't as dark as I thought it was. 2 years later, Emma Mitchell, age 12, stood in front of St. Catherine's home wearing a nice dress and holding a certificate. It was graduation day. She was officially completing the program and transitioning to the next phase of her life. The past 2 years had been transformative. She'd fully recovered physically, with only faint scars as reminders. She'd caught up on all her missed education and was now enrolled in a good middle school. She'd made friends at St. Catherine's and learned to trust people again. She'd spent weekends with Vincent's family, slowly becoming an unofficial part of their lives, not a replacement for anything, but an addition. Most importantly, she'd learned to be a kid again, to laugh without guilt, to dream without fear, to live without constantly looking over her shoulder. Vincent and his family sat in the front row of the ceremony. Elena held Marco's hand, both of them beaming with pride. Vincent had his phone out, recording everything like a proud parent. Sister Maria called Emma's name, and she walked to the front to accept her certificate. The small audience applauded, but Vincent whistled loudly, making Emma laugh and blush. Emma Mitchell, Sister Maria said warmly, came to us 2 years ago with physical wounds and emotional scars. Today, she leaves us as a remarkable young woman who has not only healed herself, but inspired everyone around her. Emma, you are proof that our past does not define our future, that we can survive terrible things and still choose kindness, still choose hope. We are so proud of you. More applause. Emma hugged Sister Maria, thanked her mentors and therapists, and walked off the small stage straight to Vincent's family. We're so proud of you, sweetheart, Elena said, pulling her into a hug. You're the coolest, Marco added, now 10 years old, and as devoted to Emma as he'd been 2 years ago. Vincent knelt down to Emma's level. So, you ready for the next chapter? Emma had chosen to live with Vincent's family full-time, at least until she was old enough to make other choices. It had taken 2 years, but she finally felt ready. Ready to be part of a family. Ready to trust that she wouldn't lose them. Ready to be loved. I'm ready, Emma said with confidence. I'm finally ready. Good. Because your room at the house is waiting. And fair warning, Elena has been decorating for weeks. As they walked out of St. Catherine's together, a family not bound by blood, but by something stronger, Emma looked back at the building that had given her space to heal. Then she looked forward at the future waiting for her. She still wore her mother's locket. She still had nightmares sometimes. She still carried scars both visible and invisible. But she also had hope, love, purpose, a future. Emma Mitchell had taken 7 bullets to save a life. And in return, she'd receive a second chance at her own. Not a perfect life. Not a life without pain or memories or challenges, but a life worth living. And sometimes, that's the greatest gift of all. 5 years later, Emma Mitchell, 17 years old, stood at a podium in front of a packed auditorium. She wore a simple black dress and her mother's locket. Behind her, a banner read, Youth Advocacy Summit, Breaking the Cycle. My name is Emma Mitchell, she began, her voice clear and strong. 7 years ago, I was a homeless child living on the streets of New York. 5 years before that, I watched my mother die in a hospital bed. I know what loss feels like. I know what hunger feels like. I know what it means to be invisible. The audience was silent, captivated. But I also know what it means to make a choice, to choose hope over despair, to choose forgiveness over revenge, to choose life over death. 7 years ago, I took 7 bullets to save a child's life. not because I was special or brave, but because I understood that children, all children, deserve a chance, deserve protection, deserve love. Emma paused, gathering her thoughts. The man I saved that child from. He was the same man whose actions killed my mother. For years I could have chosen hate. I could have chosen revenge. But my mother taught me something more important than revenge. She taught me that we always have a choice in how we respond to pain. That being hurt doesn't give us permission to hurt others. She looked out at the audience, which included Vincent and Elena and Marco, all sitting in the front row with tears in their eyes. Today, I work with homeless youth programs. I advocate for children in foster care. I mentor kids who've been through trauma. Because 7 years ago, someone showed me that change is possible. That redemption is possible. That even in our darkest moments, we can choose light. Emma touched her mother's locket. My mother's name was Sarah Mitchell. She died because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in a war that wasn't hers. But her death taught me something crucial, that cycles of violence only end when someone is brave enough to break them. That forgiveness is not weakness, it's the strongest thing we can do. She smiled, genuine and warm. So I challenge all of you here today, whatever pain you're carrying, whatever anger or hurt or loss, you have a choice. You can pass that pain forward, or you can transform it into something better. You can be defined by what happened to you, or you can define yourself by how you respond to it. Emma stepped back from the podium to thunderous applause. People stood, clapping, some crying. She'd told her story dozens of times over the past few years, but it never got easier. The pain was still there, the loss was still real, but so was the healing, so was the hope, so was the family waiting for her in the front row. After the summit, Vincent pulled Emma aside. He looked older now, more grey in his hair, more lines on his face. He'd stepped back from many of his business operations, focusing on legitimate enterprises and philanthropy. His legacy was changing from violence to virtue, all because a homeless child had shown him another path. "Your mother would be so proud," Vincent said quietly. "I'm so proud. Thank you, Vincent, for everything. For giving me a chance to heal. For not giving up on me. For showing me that people really can change. You changed me, Emma. You saved more than Marco's life that night. You saved mine too." Emma hugged him. This man who had been her enemy, then her benefactor, and now her family. Life was strange and complicated and messy, but it was also beautiful. "Come on," Marco called from across the room. He was 15 now, tall and kind-hearted, planning to study social work in college. Mom made reservations. "We're celebrating." As Emma walked with her chosen family out of the auditorium and into the bright New York afternoon, she thought about the scared 6-year-old who'd watched her mother die, the 10-year-old who'd thrown herself in front of bullets, the girl who'd chosen mercy when revenge would have been easier. She'd survived the fire, she'd survived the streets, she'd survived 7 bullets. But more than that, she'd done something harder. She'd learned to live again, to trust again, to love again. And, in doing so, she'd broken a cycle that had claimed too many lives for too many years. Emma Mitchell was 17 years old, and her life was just beginning. And it was going to be a beautiful life.